Paul opens by addressing one of Corinth's biggest issues: division. Some believers claim to follow Paul, others Apollos, some Peter, and some just Jesus. But Paul reminds them, is Christ divided? Was Paul crucified for you? This issue of spiritual elitism wasn't just a Corinthian problem. It's something we still see in the church today. Paul emphasizes that Christ alone is the foundation of our faith. Next, Paul tackles serious moral failures. There was a case of sexual immorality so shocking that even pagan cultures would have condemned it. He warns that sin, if left unchecked, spreads like yeast in dough. Paul also warns against lawsuits among believers, urging them to resolve conflicts within the church rather than taking their problems to secular courts. And then comes one of the most direct warnings. Do you not know that your body is a temple of the Holy Spirit? A clear call to honor God with our bodies and our choices. In chapter 7, Paul answers their questions about marriage, singleness, and divorce. He encourages singles to see their situation as an opportunity to serve God without distractions, but he also upholds the beauty of marriage. His message? Both marriage and singleness are gifts from God. What matters most is faithfulness in whatever situation we're in. Chapters 8 through 10. Christian freedom and stumbling blocks. Paul then talks about Christian freedom, specifically whether believers can eat food sacrificed to idols. While idols are nothing, he warns that exercising our freedom should never cause others to stumble. He uses himself as an example in chapter 9, saying he has the right to financial support as an apostle, but chooses not to take it for the sake of the gospel. Paul's point? Put others before yourself. Chapters 11 through 14. Order in worship and spiritual gifts. Next, Paul corrects disorder in worship. Some were abusing the Lord's Supper, treating it as a feast for the rich rather than a time to remember Christ's sacrifice. He also dives into spiritual gifts. While gifts like prophecy, tongues, and healing were active in the Corinthian church, they were being used pridefully. And that's where we get one of the most famous chapters in the Bible. 1 Corinthians 13. The love chapter. Love is patient, love is kind. It does not envy, it does not boast. Paul says spiritual gifts are temporary, but love never fails. No matter what gifts we have, if we don't have love, we have nothing. Chapter 15. The resurrection of Christ and our future hope. The Corinthians were also confused about the resurrection. Some doubted if believers would really be raised from the dead. Paul responds powerfully. If Christ has not been raised, your faith is futile. But because Jesus did rise, we have hope of resurrection too. This is why Paul says, "Death, where is your sting?" He ends with a challenge to stay firm in the faith. Be steadfast, immovable, always abounding in the work of the Lord. Chapter 16. Closing encouragement. Paul ends his letter with final instructions and greetings. He reminds them to give generously, stand firm in faith, and do everything in love. 1 Corinthians is a powerful reminder that the Christian life isn't just about knowledge, gifts, or freedom. It's about love, unity, and Christ-centered living. What stood out to you the most? Drop a comment below. If you enjoyed this deep dive, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell for more Bible breakdowns. Next up, we'll be diving into 2 Corinthians, so stay tuned.